Hello everyone, welcome to yourfaculty.com. I hope you got chance to see our previous video on percentage. I'm now on to the second video. We ended our previous video on how to calculate when there is a percentage increase. I told you a shortcut as well. Now let's move on to what if the question says the population, let's say the population of a particular town is 2000. And the question says that the population came down by 10%. So what is our usual way of calculating it? What do we first try to find the difference. I mean, how much it came down. And how do we do that? We'll do 2000 into 10 by 100. So we get 200. And with that we say it came down by the new population is 2000 minus 200, 1800. Now what if the question says, now let's look at like our previous example on increase, let's look at it in a different angle. So how did you calculate the new population? The total expressions can be written as 2000 minus 2000 into 10 by 100. Okay, so what do you get here? You take 2000 out and you get 1 minus 10 by 100. And what is this 1 minus 10 by 100? You can write it as 1 minus 0.1, which is equal to 0.9. So here is the magic figure. So this is the integrating factor that we need to look out for. So since in GRE and CAT you are provided the calculator, what you need to just do, if the question says that a particular value came down by 10% or 15%, all that you have to do is multiply that number by 0.9 if it is 10%. Now let's quickly think about 20%. What would it be? It basically means 1 minus 20 by 100, which would mean 1 minus 0.2, which would be equal to 0.8. So for 20% it became 0.8. 30%, you need to multiply it by 0.7. 40%, you need to multiply it by 0.6. Now that is, remember, they are all decrease. Now if the decrease is just 5%, what do you do in that case? You need to be very careful here. You need to multiply the value by 0.95. How did this come? Please watch this space. 1 minus 5 by 100. This is the expression. So you get 100 minus 5 by 100 is equal to 0.95. So you should remember that you should assume that the value on the decimal portion is 100 and then subtract the percentage value out here. So then you will get values like this. So for this, for an easy remembrance, that if it is 20%, you need to assume that the decimal portion is 100 and you are subtracting 100 minus 20, which is 80. And this is the actual logic which I explained out here. So I hope you are understanding it. Okay. So you get 0.95 if it is 5%. If it is 7% decrease, it is multiplied by 0.93. Now in a particular problem, they say that population of a town first decreased by 10%, then increased by 5%, then decreased by 2%, and finally then increased each year, year 1, year 2, year 3 and year 4. Then increased by 7%. Now, you don't have to waste your time. If a calculator is already provided to you in the exam, all that you have to do is you have to do this calculation. 2000 is the population, decreased by 10%, 0.9. So this for the first year. Next year, it increased by 5%. We are taking this value and then doing the same calculation, right? So it increased by, and in from a previous video you know that it is 1.05, and it decreased by 2%, and from our calculation out here we know that it is 0.98, and then it increased by 7%, which is 0.7, and whatever is the value is your new population. So what you see here is you don't have to separately calculate for each year and then take that value, carry over that value for next year and then calculate that separately. With this method, you just need to continuously multiply and you will finally get the value that you are looking for. So I hope you understand what I am trying to say. In case you have any doubts, please send us an email at info@urfaculty.com. This is our website, urfaculty.com. I hope you understand this concept. This is very important concept when you take up data interpretation kind of questions. You will have problems related to that. In fact, the number will be bigger number. All that you have to do is multiply using a calculator in an exam with those integrating values or factors, and you will get the answer. Now, so we have done increase, we have done decrease, and we have seen problems where there are both the kind of things. Now, what happens in the case of a bank? In the case of a bank, you will see a compounded value. So your principal grows compounded. Basically, what does compound mean? So the previous example uses this concept of compounding. So what it means is you had 100 rupees and at 10% interest, what would it become? It would become 100 into 1.1, which is equal to 110 rupees at the end of 1 year. Now, you need to do the same calculation if it is a, let's say, a recurring deposit. What happens? This 110 becomes the new principal and it grows at 10% again for the second year. And at the end of second year, what happens? 110 into 1.1, you get, so 11 into 11 is 121 and 0. So you get 121. So at the end of second year, you get 121. Okay. So what happens again? You take 121 and do a 10% of it. You can do similarly until you, let's say you done a 5-year deposit. So you have to do this sequentially for 5 years. Instead, you can do this technique that I explained in the previous chapter. So here again I'll show you into 1.1 is equal to something. Then you take this value out here, 10%, that value into 1.1, you get value. So you have to do it continuously for 5 times. Instead, what you do here, you take 100 as the number and multiply 1.1 and you get for first year. And that value you are taking and again multiplying by 1.1. So you get that. You are again multiplying it by 1.1. So third year. You are multiplying it by 1.1 fourth year. You are multiplying by 1.1 fifth year. So what do you get? 100 into 1.1 power 5. And this is exactly what is used when you want to calculate a compound interest. The same expression that you see there is basically 1 plus 10 by 100. This is what you see there to the power of 5, which is basically 1 plus r by 100 to the power of n. And that's the exact calculation we have done here. Please try to correlate this percentage increase year on year is basically used here to calculate the final value at the end of 5 years. So I hope you understand. I'll move on to a problem now. So these are the typical trivia problems that you come across in any exam. You shouldn't be wasting too much time in such questions because it's very easy. Let's start reading the question. If Sam's score, I mark it as S, is 40% more than Ben's score, what percentage is Ben's score less than Sam's score? So let's take the first approach that we have learned so far. So what do we know about Sam's score? Sam's score is equal to 1 plus 40 by 100 of Ben's score. So what does this mean? S is equal to, so you get 2, you get 5 here. So S is equal to 7 by 5 B. So what is B then? B is equal to 5 by 7 S. Now, before getting into solving this expression to get a percentage, let me try and explain to you what does this expression mean. This expression means that if a particular value was 100 and it became 120, what is the percentage increase? How do you calculate that? So a percentage change is generally calculated by initial value minus final value by initial value. So what does this mean? This means we take 100 as the initial value and 120 as the thing by 100. So don't consider this because it is basically difference. Minus symbol, it just means that you need to find out the difference of these two values. So you get 20 by 100. Now if it is vice versa, if 120 became 100, how do you do that? You do 120 minus 100, the difference is still the same, by the base has changed. What was the initial value in this case? The initial value was 120 because 120 became 100. So what happened here? It became 20 by 120. So which is basically 1 by 6 of 100, basically 1 by 600. And what is 1 by 6? We have already done that calculation in our earlier exercise. So I don't want to repeat it out here. So it's basically that. Now to try to solve this same problem over here, 5 by 7s. So what was the initial value of B? How can we represent this? We can represent this as 1 minus 2 by 7 of S. How did we do that? If you try to split this, we get 7 minus 2 by 7. And what do you get? What do you mean by this? It just means that it is 2 by 7 into 100 will be the percentage change. Now here is a shortcut way for such problems. Let's assume that Ben's score is, I'll write it over here because I need just this space to solve this problem. Let's assume that Ben's score is 100. If Ben's score is 100 and and Sam's score is 40% more than Ben, then Sam's score will be 140. So going by this particular concept, difference between these two scores is 40. 140 minus 100. And what is the base value you are taking here? The base value that you have to take is Sam's score, 140. Ben's score is less than Sam's score. So 140 by 140 is equal to 2 by 7. And this is exactly what you have got here. 2 by 7. You solve the fraction. Thanks for watching this video. You can follow us in our YouTube channel, Your Faculty channel, and you can also like us in our Facebook page and LinkedIn page. We also have our blogs where we share our quiz on a regular basis. You can also take quizzes there. So blog.yourfaculty.com. You can see our tests in www.yourfaculty.com. There are a lot of tests for each of these exams, bank exam or IBPS exam or GRE or CAT. You can try out over there. Thank you.